With the reveal of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave at the end of last week's Nintendo Direct, I wanted to make a quick video to get some of my initial thoughts and hopes out. For some quick background, I love Fire Emblem. I played all the games that have made their way west, plus a few others, and Fire Emblem Three Houses is quite literally my favorite game ever. I put like 400 hours in that game over 7 or 8 playthroughs. It was my jam. So let's not waste too much time and just jump into one of my bigger hopes that may be antithetical to what I just said about loving Three Houses, but I think I want just one big story this time around. The 4 different endings in Three Houses obviously made for some fun replayability and left plenty to go back to and discover each time to make each run feel fresh, but I don't think that needs to be a thing we need to revisit for each new entry. I would not mind having a couple more games with a beginning and end story, then we can revisit the split route thing later on. If it happens, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it, but I want to see one big fleshed out story involving all the characters this time. One big reason I'm feeling this way is since hearing this comment during the Direct.
This intertwining story happens alongside the thrilling, heroic games.
I've had this idea stuck in my head for a story that is set up like Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn on the Wii. The phrase, intertwining story, has me stuck thinking that we'll be shifting perspectives between a few characters throughout, maybe the 4 they were highlighting in this trailer, and you'll see the narrative develop from each different character and understand their motive, how others might stand in the way of that, and eventually everyone and everything will line up for the climax where your full army is combined or something like that. I really enjoyed this in the Radiant Dawn. I think this could be a fun way to allow the player to get to know lots of characters without forcing you to replay the game 3+ times. Speaking of characters, I have some, I don't want to say concerns, because there's not a whole lot to draw from quite yet, but after watching the trailer a few times and watching some people break down some small, tiny details and speculate, it looks like there are going to be some ties from characters in this game and those in Three Houses. That makes sense, and I'm cool with that, and some cool lore connections and references, as this game does seem to be set in the same world as Three Houses with all the crests and the Sothis reveal at the end. Not entirely obvious when or where or how the games are connected, but I hope they make these new characters stand on their own and don't just make one-to-one repaints from their descendants/ancestors and those personalities. Like I said, only a reveal trailer, so nothing to really draw conclusions on just yet, but worth mentioning. One of the things that made me fall in love with Three Houses and its world was the world building. I thought the lore was super cool, I liked reading about the history of Fodlan in the library, I liked learning about different families and their crests. I just thought the whole setup was neat. I would love to see more of that and allow me to dig deeper as we go throughout this game. One thing that comes to mind is if this game has the post-map exploration that Engage had, but with a little bit more tidbits to read and learn about each area as you visit them, it could be a cool opportunity to learn about the world with a different setting than just reading library lore entries in Garreg Mach Monastery. If this game is indeed a prequel, I would also like to maybe see some of the heroes referenced in Three Houses from the past, maybe even see some returning characters who may live longer than a normal human if the timing makes sense. There are also a few seemingly random things in Three Houses lore around a few of the villain characters that I would have liked to see expanded a bit more in Three Houses, and this could be a good opportunity to flesh some of that out. Gameplay wise, I do have a few quick things I want to see. First off, the weapon triangle. I think they've been experimenting with it in fun ways in the last couple games. Three Houses mostly being removed until later game character skills, and Engage break mechanic making player phase weapon triangle super ultra important. But I think this time around I would not mind seeing a bit of a return to form with the standard hit chance up and down kind of thing, with some more complex systems and skills tacked on with character skills as the game goes. I think the weapon triangle is an important system, so I want it there from the start. But I think Engage was a little too heavy on it, where it just felt like the player phase turned into a puzzle each turn on how to either wipe out the enemy or break each enemy unit on almost every single turn, and it got to be a little exhausting at times. I would love to see the return of in-map character recruitments. I get that developers don't want to put time into making a character and then have players miss them or be unable to experience them, but I always enjoy the extra challenge, however small, of recruiting some of my army in the old games from the enemy as an added in-map objective, just to make the maps have a little bit more to them. Character classes are another thing I love in these games. I love promoting units to cool new classes with cool new abilities, and I would love to see the return of 3-tiered class trees, especially if this ends up being a longer game with one intertwined story a la Radiant Dawn. And to break away from Three Houses again, Personally, I like when you have some options for class change for your units, but I don't love it when any unit can be any class. Letting me choose between and maybe even switch back and forth between a couple options for each character in each tier would be cool and still allows for some customization while maintaining some unit roles to make everyone feel like a part of the team. I know the pushback to this in Three Houses is just you control the buttons you press, but I was always tempted to just make everyone a Wyvern Rider in that game, and that just made that class feel less special because anyone could do it. With that though, I think I have covered most of my initial hopes and concerns for the game. Like I said, I wanted to keep this a little short. I'll be keeping an eye out for any new information as it comes, so maybe I'll make another one of these if there's some good info to go off of later. If you're interested in that or have interest in me talking about other games in general, consider subscribing below. It would mean a lot. And on your way out, a thumbs up goes a long way as well. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.